how much of that is down to Kieran Donaghy's coaching ability? And I say that in there's two things about that, right? People might say about Armagh that it was a distraction technique, or that it was a gimmick in some way, bringing in Kieran Donaghy. But I look at not so much what coaching he's done, but the way that even basketball is played on the court, because there's so much on-court coaching, players talking to each other through each play, players communicating with each other, that, Kieran Donaghy had a world of that experience. Even in his book, you picked up that he was challenging Jack O'Connor over different scenarios where they could work out. So he's always been really a deep thinker about the game. And I'm just wondering, is that's the influence we're seeing right now with Armagh, the way that they're shaped, their attacking shape and all that. It just seems to be miles ahead of where it was in previous years.
I think first and foremost, Dick, they have an unbelievable amount of talent. They've serious forwards. The guys you mentioned there, Campbell, Grugan, O'Neill's. I mean, I know Jamie Clark stepped away. And funny, just going back to what you were saying earlier, Nat, certain forwards, I think, just got sick of blanket defence. And would those top forwards have got a bit more sickened if they played previously? I think they did. And I think that's maybe led to the likes of Jamie Clark coming in and coming out. Some people are just fed up with it all. Now, the game's opened up now substantially. What I was most impressed with Armagh and on Saturday evening was more so their defensive shape and their physicality. I mean, they were so superior to Donegal in that. And what I couldn't understand was, we've seen it so many times in football matches, why don't you enforce what you're good at and keep driving it back? See this thing of sitting. Now, at the water break, it was 5-1. At the Armagh, and it was like Armagh were just brushing Donegal aside. Defensively, they were solid. They had two banks of maybe 6 or 7 players across protecting their defence. And when they broke down, it was kick passes inside. They were trying to isolate the O'Neills inside against Donegal, because even in the forward line, they were much more superiorly physically, Donegal. And really, they're running Donegal ragged. The water break, as we've seen, the water break has been massive in so many games now. You think of the many times it's broke. A team's fluidity in the game has allowed the Donegal management to come and say, right, hold on a second here, we're being exposed, we're getting sucked into a blanket defence. So from that 5-1, Armagh were full value for it. And then after that, Donegal stopped bringing so many players forward. They sat under their shape a little. But even after that, for a lot of the first half, I was so impressed with Armagh. Now, that's defensively. Now, they seem to have players all over the pitch that can influence it. And at halftime, then, there was a big job to do for Declan Bogue's team. And I think it was 65 minutes that Kelly got the goal. Donegal kept coming back. And then, but that put them 4 up. And at that point, everybody in the ground would have said, Armagh, this game won. Now, again, that's when the worst effects of sitting on a lead started to come on the Armagh. Now, I know they were down as low as Division 3. They were 9 years out of Division 1. But it's there that you think, right, we have control of this game. What do? We put everybody right inside our 50 to 45 and invite Donegal on, because if they get 2 points, we'll get a point. The clock will run down. We'll win the match. But as we know, if anything, at the end, it was Donegal who actually could have won the game. But how much of that was Donegal? How much was it Armagh inviting on? You'd feel disappointed very much from Armagh if they left. They definitely were the better side over the course of the game. But as yet, they were clinging on. And a lot of that goes back to mentality. But listen, I think Armagh are certainly on the way up. And again, a bit like you mentioned, a couple of Ulster teams, what I've seen from Monaghan as well, I think anything could happen for Armagh this summer. There's no one I think they'll fear. And in a similar way, Monaghan look rejuvenated. And like Armagh, I think going into the championship, it's a shot for them. They both consider they can win Ulster, and I think they both can.
Declan, going all the way back to maybe 2014 when Paul Grimley was in his final year as manager of Armagh, Stefan Campbell looked like he could become one of the best players in the game, and maybe his form was up and down in the meantime, but he gave another powerful display here, scored 4 points, some of them just like his pace and power going through, and he's a very good kicker of the ball as well. Like, he's really kicking on to a serious level. He
played a fair bit of soccer for Lurgan Celtic, I believe, and Clonagale would have been one of the powerhouses, but they're sort of been an intermediate. He's won intermediate player of the year and all that in Armagh. They wouldn't be challenging for senior honours. He also has admitted in public that I don't know to what extent, but he said that he struggled before with gambling issues and that. So God knows, like, what's behind the athlete and what kind of issues are there. But he certainly is. I hate to say streaky player, but he has turned it on and turned it off in the past. Now he has put together a few really highly impressive performances, and there's no doubt about it. Like, I've been watching him for years, where he has unbelievable speed. He created that goal. He got his 4 points from play. He just kind of frightens teams too, because he is very fast, and when he does go, he's direct. I don't think they're missing Jamie. I'm just looking at that team, like, and there's Rory Grugan will play a bit deeper and thread ball into Oisín O'Neill. And then you've got Ross McQuillan, who's unbelievably fast. I suppose he's been away at Aussie rules and stuff like that, so he's going to take a wee while, maybe, just coming into it. But Rian O'Neill, Oisín O'Neill speak for themselves. Jamar Hall's fairly busy. You get up and down the pitch, still wouldn't have been that impressed with him fisting the ball over the bar. It came in for a right bit of discussion last night. Kieran O'Hanlon, Conor Mack, like the pace is all over the park here with these guys. Jarlath Oak, Burns and Neil Grimley is as good a midfield as you're going to find around the place right now, because they're two very evenly. Like, Grimley's played for Ireland. Jarlath Oak can be whatever he wants to become. Like, he's got so much potential in him. He was possibly a bit quieter on Saturday than I've seen him of late, but he can be a serious player. But getting back to your point, like Campbell, absolutely. But there's so many lads like that too that, if they just had that, another 20% of consistency, they would be world beaters. Like Michael Langan, for example, like, he's kicking around there in that panel for the last number of years. Ciaran McGonigal is good enough foil for Hugh McFadden. Kind of think they're a wee bit too similar though, Brendan. And kind of, why is Michael Langan now just not saying, I am the dynamic Brian Fenton of this team here. Look at what I've been able to do 2 weeks in a row. Take the ball and just whiz it down the field, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to score points like this, 2 or 3 every week, and I'm going to be the man. I mean, like, a lot of these players, we look at them and we admire them and what they can do, but, like, what is the missing ingredient for them to say, rather than just be talked about as a good player, I want to be the absolute, the guy who sets everything in motion here, the standard bearer for the team.
Yeah, well, if he was a Fenton, I would be happy enough now. That's high praise for him if he's getting that. I suppose he's new enough. Last year was the first year he probably nailed down a starting berth, so I think he's still evolving as a man. I think with Donegal, those other players that you mentioned, because listen, our weakness is obviously in our defence. We've brought through maybe 5 or 6 top quality forwards this last 3 or 4 years, and we really haven't been bringing through any defenders. Now, there's been a few lads, Morrison and Gillespie there, which both have had terrible times with injuries. Outside of that there, even Owen Ban really is an attacking type player. So, this year we could win the championship with Neil McGee and Paddy McGrath in our full back line. 2 of the lads that were playing in 2012, of course, and they played a few years before that, obviously. So such is the low turnover or low productivity of defenders that's coming through for us. But certainly those players you mentioned, I mean, the one game Donegal were really in control of, I thought, for most of the game was Tyrone. And there's no coincidence that Michael Murphy played that full match, and then he didn't play against Monaghan and he didn't play against Armagh. And we've seen Donegal be up and down, and his influence over Donegal, sometimes it's not about being on the ball, it's the subtle things, it's his leadership, what he's talking to in the pitch. And then at times they just go to Michael and either kick a 45 or kick an outrageous point, or he'll just take the ball and slow it down. He just seems to have this thing where he's in charge. He directs the whole of it. So while Donegal's missing him, it's important for players. It's notable you mentioned Langan there. I mean, unbelievable. Dick, if he keeps going like this, of his own goal of the season competition, 2 phenomenal goals. And it's something there, Dick. Funny, just goal chances. The amount of goal chances we're seeing missed now. I know it's a hard thing to practice at training, but point scoring, we're on about forwards getting better and better. Not necessarily in front of goals. Now, I know it's not always forwards that are in, but if you look at Conor McCarthy, you can say bad defender from Donegal, but when he had those 3 strikes, his composure to just plant the ball where he wanted it, that's a top forward. And if you look at it, the amount of goal chances, I know in the Down game there yesterday with Westmeath, the amount of chances that were missed, goal chances, players snatching at him, taking the wrong option. I think that's a composure. If you're looking at what forwards want to work on going forward, going into this championship, it's definitely putting the ball in the back of the net, and not always. I've seen people giving off about the handy fist. The fist over the bar for me, more often than not, is the right option. It's usually a tight angle. But certainly when players are going for goal, how many times have we seen either under hitting the ball or blazing it over? And if you want to watch the perfect finish, just put that Conor McCarthy hat-trick on. I don't really want to watch it anymore myself. It was hard watching it at the time.